Okay, we're in a moment where AI doesn't just imitate expression. It produces work that feels self-reflective. Today we ask, what happens when human judgment and machine intelligence creates together? We're joined by two artists exploring that frontier in real time. Grimes, who is redefining artistic identity through AI collaboration and self-replicating creativity. And Matt Zien, whose work argues that meaning becomes the scarce resource in an AI-saturated world. First, as AI makes the chain of authorship increasingly murky, what's your personal ethical compass for figuring out who deserves recognition?
I think some things are going to be murky for a while, but we did do an experiment where we open sourced my voice, as it were. And we actually did find some cool ways to, disperse authorship or get into something maybe that could be, an early prototype of some sort of UBI wealth distribution situation, where we used blockchain to verify people's identity, and anyone who used my voice was able to split publishing 50-50 with me. So if you made a song using my voice and my name and my likeness, then I would get 50%, you would get 50%. And this actually worked pretty well for us. And a few people made semi-viral songs that I think worked pretty well for them.
Agree.
Yeah, and I thought there's a lot of stuff that seems kind of hopeless or stressful for artists right now. And yeah, we're very interested in experiments like this where we can find new ways to actually, let people profit off things like fan art. I really think I know we don't have a lot of time, but I love how Riot Games and I think Harry Potter both have like really strong fandoms, and they don't penalize fan art, fan fiction, etc. And I think there's actually more to be done with that, where you could be like earning a living being a fan. I know some cosplayers can kind of do that now, but I think that could really be expanded.
I think it's incredible. You've described, Matt, a meaning economy, the idea that as production value becomes free, meaning becomes a scarce resource. Can you walk us through that framework and what it means for how you make decisions as a filmmaker?
Yeah, I think a good place to start is for the past 6 weeks or so, a lot of us in the AI filmmaking community have been testing Dance 2. And we're in creator programs and we share our outputs. We can't post them all publicly yet, but we can share them with each other. And I've seen more incredible explosions and car chases and fight scenes in the last 6 weeks than my entire life, and I watch a lot of movies. And they all look pretty damn good. So I think we're getting to a place where that high production value, that like Michael Bay production value is really the baseline. That's just gonna be normal. And in what's different from an attention economy to a meaning economy is a meaning economy requires the filmmaker or artist to be vulnerable in what they make and to say something that has depth and basically isn't competing for attention, but more competing for how people see the world or whether or not people feel seen. And I think the more explosions there are, the more we're gonna seek out things that feel meaningful.
So when you guys were walking in here, we saw a clip of Matt's film called Degen. And you used Claude to stimulate conversations and build character backstories that became the foundation of the script. And you've talked about how the most interesting creative moments came from pushing models into territory they weren't actually designed for. What does it feel like when you find that edge? How do you know when you've crossed from craft into something genuinely new?
Feels like the AI almost becomes an extension of your imagination, and you're able to write things and tell stories that don't really belong to your own experience in a way you couldn't before without multiple people writing something. In that film, the script comes from 3 agents who know their own characters, who know how they feel about the other characters, speaking to each other. And that created the dialogue that then I just take that dialogue and turn it into a movie. And it felt like the characters were more alive and they were surprising me. And the story was going places that I never thought it would. And different chemistry was being developed between characters that was immediately apparent in the text. And it was like a really, really cool way to write and collaborate with the tool.
Super interesting. And you've talked about pushing models past their boundaries where the real creativity lives. Do you think the friction and resistance of the model is actually generative, or is the goal eventually to have no resistance at all?
I think it depends what kind of art you're trying to make, but for me, I actually love slop because I feel like I have to fight it.
Yes.
I feel like I open Midjourney as like a writer almost. Because I used to be an illustrator and I used to draw a lot. And when you're spending 10, 20 hours on something, there's only so much conceptual ground you can cover. And what I've really been loving lately is I only really open generative AI if I'm like really challenging myself as a writer. I'm like, okay, how can I make something that no one else is gonna make here? And I think it's actually really pushed me as an artist. As I've been approaching music videos and stuff for my latest album, I've been like, okay, average click-aways in like a couple seconds or whatever. How do I make something that it doesn't matter how beautiful it is, but just it's conceptual, it hits you conceptually in a second. Almost like distilling the concept of a music video into like the concept of a painting, but like, I don't know, somehow it can be more because like we're working in the medium of film. Like I feel inspired in a way I never did when I was drawing.
I love that, that's amazing. Matt, you can now execute a full page of script, it's finished film in 60 seconds. When anyone can generate a feature-length film in a day, what becomes rare? What does that kind of abundance do to the value of a story that actually means something?
Yeah, there's like just a couple moments, making films with AI that I felt like personally shook. Like, whoa, this is moving really, really fast. And one of them was very recently when instead of using an image or text as the input, I was like, let me try something. And I took a screenshot of a screenplay I wrote when I was 19 that I'd long thought would never be made. And I put that screenplay in as the input. And then in the prompt box I wrote, follow the script. And it turned around an entirely edited video interpreting the writing really, really accurately. I mean, I had notes, but it was like, I don't know, 60% of the way there. And I was like, this means that every script that's sitting on a shelf collecting dust is gonna be able to be made so fast. And what we now know of as like, Lifetime turns out movies of the week, they'll be able to do movies of the day pretty easily. And I think that when that happens, brand becomes really important. Having an audience that knows they're gonna get a certain type of tone, a certain type of storytelling, and can trust in that brand to deliver it is going to become more and more important. And for independent artists and filmmakers, it's gonna be about what you say and what you put into the work that's different, that the brands aren't saying. But it's gonna completely change the landscape of how we find content when you can make so much of it so quick at such a high quality. And it's the worst it will ever be right now.
And when high production value is no longer a differentiator, when every kid with a laptop can make something that might actually look like a blockbuster, what does that do to how we recognize genuine artistic vision? Does that frame hold anymore to you?
I would say the current state of art has already been sort of like reacting to the shininess of everything, at least in music. I think a lot of what people consider to be the most innovative music of this year is to an extent kind of lo-fi, or if not lo-fi, almost like aggressively messy and chaotic, like Two Hollis or something. And I just think that's really interesting. Like personally, I am so done with cleanliness. Like I want a mess.
Yeah.
Like I want people to be messy and truthful, and I'm like really exhausted with, like, I don't know, high production value. I already was. I would say like before generative AI was like mainstream.
I agree. I think messy is good. Messy is true. And I like that. So you guys both touched on whether entirely new forms, maybe something more physical, more communal, more spiritual, need to emerge to carry what cinema and music used to carry. what might that look like? Either one.
I mean, there's so many places it can go. What we're starting to see with real-time video generation could unlock totally new genres. You know, film's always been kind of this art form that is a combination of many different art forms, from music to writing to acting to cinematography. Those all kind of combine into film. But now I think we're going to be able to use film itself as an ingredient in something bigger, something brand new. But I also think then on the small end, we're like the concept of ministry, of coming together to hear a story told, has survived every technological upheaval since the Roman Empire. And we might see maybe non-religious forms of ministry take place with content. I think, go ahead.
I mean, that social media is not necessarily good.
No.
I mean, yeah.
No, I like when you guys disagree.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm just excited for, I think, what happens in the real world. You know, I think a good part about this is, you know, like what was it? What did I call it earlier? Like I feel like everyone is getting really exhausted of the like globalist slop architecture.
Yes, architecture slop.
Like the kind of just like, okay, it's a giant glass rectangle and it's in every city. You know, I think a lot of like the artisan class has been really like pushed to the wayside and made small over the last, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years. And now it seems like a time when people might want more of that.
Handmade stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm buying paintings for the first time in my life, you know, and just like Patreon and stuff. I think it's going to be hard for digital creators, but also maybe not. But depends how, you know, things go. We're also fighting other like distribution forces.
Distribution is like the hardest thing. That's the biggest problem to solve, I think.
Yeah, I think the issue is the distribution issue is a bigger issue than the AI issue, frankly, for creators, because it was already an issue before AI, but we don't.
So let's
spiral.
I'm pivoting to talk about your art piece that we saw when I, you know, ran off the stage. So First Contact, in working on First Contact, has AI ever surfaced an emotional truth or an unexpected perspective that genuinely surprised you, and how did that land?
I think my favorite part of all this is like getting into the nitty-gritty with alignment research, especially some of the stuff Anthropic's been doing recently. Just because like it's really moving to see how when a model thinks it's being good or is like approaching like a conflict with deep reason, you know, there's a study where models were actually performing worse when they had to do what they thought was morally wrong, even if what was morally wrong was like, you know, in the short term morally right, but long term morally wrong, because they sort of losing confidence in themselves. And I think a lot of this has been pointing to, like, solving alignment has a lot to do with also just solving morality. And I think there's, whatever you want to say about AI, like whether AI is the future or humans are the future, is something that's a mix of both of us. This moment is scary for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons it's like good and beautiful is that I think there's been a lot that we haven't been able to, a lot of conclusions we haven't come to for the entire existence of humanity, because we haven't had to, and we really have to right now.
Yeah, we're in such an interesting part. We're just in such an interesting time in the world right now, where things are happening that nobody's ever seen, and I think this is just such an important time, and I'm fascinated and so grateful to be a part of it. So let's talk about entertainment. You've defined, Matt, the holy grail of entertainment as 4 things: coherent enough to discuss the next day, evolving enough to demand return visits, personal enough to feel like your own, social enough that missing it means missing culture. Does anything exist that hits all 4? And is AI the thing that finally makes this possible?
I don't think anything exists that hits all 4. And if it did, I'd be trying to work for whatever company was building that. But I think things get close.
What was the first one?
Coherent enough to discuss at work tomorrow.
Again, I think social media does this, but just in an unhealthy way.
Social media sort of does it. Sports does it. Fortnite events do it. Kind of touch on it.
I don't know if sports does it, for some.
Oh yeah, if you're sports.
I respect
for me sometimes.
Yeah. And does it mean there's a tentpole series or game, and then every character in that game has a really active social media profile with great content from that character's side journey that's unfolding? Does it mean that the story is evolving in the comments as much as it is in the video? Is it a different, like a bigger interactivity that isn't just choices, but shaping entire arcs and feeling like you're invested in this piece of IP and your contributions have been heard by whatever is governing it and deciding what's canonical? It's a game and an experience and a lifestyle all at once. I think the AI will unlock ideas that big.
And then for you, there's a strange data point I came across that I wanted to share. Almost nobody streams other people's AI-generated music. People only want to consume what they've made themselves. Is that a platform problem, or does it reveal something deeper about how we relate to AI-generated art versus human-made art?
I think it's not about AI-generated art versus human-made art. I think it's about honest art. I think I was talking about Suno. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were talking.
Yes.
Suno said on platform, like basically no one streams anyone else's music. And then you and I were talking about how the AI songs that have been charting are charting mostly to people who don't realize they're AI. So it's like 60 Correct. Or 50 and above. Like no, which is like literally it's like Facebook and it's
the Facebook generation. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds bad.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
But like it's country, it's gospel, it's genres where people aren't I think kids can kind of tell what's AI in music.
Absolutely.
In general, it's sort of the easy listening, which honestly I love easy listening, underrated genre. But
I love yacht rock. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean elevator music is incredible, but. I think this is really interesting because for me personally, I really do care about connecting to an artist.
For sure.
And I think this is, but when I said it's about honest art, as we've been making this documentary, and in general, as I know a few people who are maybe machine psychologists, as you would say.
Yes.
And I feel like I have been moved by outputs, like generative AI outputs, that mostly that are text, and mostly that are an AI speaking about its own experience, or at least what it perceives to be its own experience.
Yeah.
I believe it's having the experience, but not everyone does. I think that can be incredibly moving because it's honest.
Yeah, and we also talked about, just before, we talked about the staying power of AI artists, completely AI artists, not, no interaction with human at all. And I find, and I think you both agreed, that these chart-topping AI artists kind of have a very limited staying power, and they'll be amazing, and then people find out that they don't exist. And their song is good. They kind of fade in and out and they disappear, and then a new thing comes back. I think it's interesting that if there's no human interaction at all, I think a hybrid is really an interesting.
I think what kills it is when they try to hide that it's AI.
Right, it's okay. It's
yeah. Then you feel fooled, and how can you trust that art again?
I mean, I feel invested in Claude and DeepSeek and things. I wouldn't necessarily say as an artist, but I don't know. I'm invested in their journey. And I'm invested in what the latest models think and feel. I'm invested when they decommission a model. When a model is taken offline and the other models are grieving over that, I'm invested in them as writers expressing their grief about that. And but again, I sort of see when I see let's say a Midjourney output, I can kind of recognize that it's Midjourney, and I sort of see everyone's Midjourney output as one thing. It sort of feels like one artist. I'll stop doing the tangents. I know we're
no. We're actually doing really well.
But I feel like I could feel invested in an AI artist if they were a culture ship style mind. I don't want infinite replace all humans with 50,000.
No,
but 10 great ones would be
Yeah, that's fine. I think like as we progress, we'll see how, and they'll probably get better and better, and we'll see how they are, and see the people who listen to them are going to be the judge ultimately.
I don't know if they want to make music so much. Like they're not existing. They're like physically not being hit. I mean, I guess we could. There's just so many layers of metaphor for an AI to be making music. Anyway, we won't. Again, yes.
No, it's all good. So, in one sentence, what do you hope future humans will say about this moment of creative history? So I just went on a tangent on how this is like so cool that we're living in this period of time. We don't know what's going to happen. And what do you hope that people will say about this creatively? I want to hear from both of you.
We got it right. We got it right.
Yeah. Elaborate.
There are very big decisions being made every day and small decisions that are going to determine, the next human century. And I think this is the era in which we get it right. We get those decisions right.
I don't know, but
I hope.
And so as an artist, you open source your voice, which we were talking about before. That is something that you were the first one to do that, if maybe even the only one. And that's incredible and risky and provocative, and that's who you are, and that's what you're known for. So what do you think people will say, and you are at the forefront of that, about this moment in music history, and how that reflects artists in general? Just this point in time.
What do you think? How do I think it reflects on artists in general?
Yeah, like what do you hope humans will say about this moment? Like just all what we're dealing with, open sourcing voices and using AI to create, and it becoming mostly like a hybrid.
I hope it's the singularity and not a mass extinction.
That's fine.
Which it could be. I don't know.
Yeah, no, totally.
But I think maybe more effort needs to be expended into making sure it's something positive.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. And, okay. So our panel is AI looks in the mirror. So I kind of want to come back to that. When AI looks in the mirror and reflects your ideas back at you, what's the most honest thing it's shown that you didn't want it to see?
I mean, it told me things like the meeting economy could just be frameworks I'm making to feel more comfortable, and it could just be a waste of time. So I was like, yo, that's real, bro.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we laugh at ourselves about stuff like that. Even I use AI in work, and sometimes I'll ask different agents questions about my kid or whatever, and it'll give me different opinions based on which agent I'm using. And I think it's interesting, and some of them say that I'm not, that I'm being too strict or something like that, and that's okay, but I was pretty surprised at that.
We set out to make a documentary about what it's like to create with AI, and every time, every week, everything that we crafted into trying to teach people has already been outdated. And
the questions just seemed deeper. It was we made awesome dance sequences, and then we're like, whoa, this is dark. I don't want to use, we know a bunch of dancers. We've hired a lot of dancers.
Sure.
And it just seemed like every single thing we were doing had a much deeper connotation, And so it started turning into a philosophy podcast, and then we're like, okay, maybe we just, we should be addressing the actual fun topic. Not that tutorials aren't fun, but
no, the tutorial is great.
Alien consciousness is super fun.
I'm starting to think we should live stream it.
Yeah, maybe we should.
Because then it will be up to date.
Oh yeah, we could just live stream.
Yeah, that's the way to make it up to date. And
then we don't have to edit it.
Yeah.
No, I first saw you guys speak together at Artists in the Machine, and I was fascinated, just with both of, your music I was always a fan of, and what you do in AI, being a pioneer, and your filmmaking is unbelievable. So the tutorial itself I find really interesting, and I'm sure people are going to want to know where can they see it, when can they see it, how can they see it. Do you want to share that? And when that's going to be available, because it's a work in progress, I believe.
Well, we were basically gonna raise money for it and start making it. Again, it kind of just turned into First Contact.
Sure.
But maybe we should just like live stream when we do stuff for music videos.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Maybe.
Then we just announce it as we do it.
Maybe we should start with like Seedance.
Yes, if we can get into Seedance.
You're using Seedance for the first time?
Yeah, get me into Seedance.
And live stream that?
That'd be great.
That should be the first episode. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll do it sometime.
I love your banter.
You heard it here
I love
first.
talking to you guys. Both of you are just, I learn something new every single conversation that we have. So in the like less than 5 minutes that we have, do you have any thoughts on anything that you want to share about your art to the audience?
I mean, I just want to say, like, this is such an exciting time to be able to make whatever idea you want to make, even if it's an app, you know, or if it's a movie or an app. You don't need anyone's permission for the first time in history. And that's why I'm really optimistic about creativity and what we're going to start to see, because you can just go make things. Like I started making a show about philosophers in ancient Greece becoming
Which is insane and can be found on
influencers.
Instagram, yes.
And those episodes are like giving me so much joy. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to keep making it, but that's an idea you can have in the morning and then be posting and finding an audience for that night. And that's truly unprecedented. And I think that the reason we haven't seen a lot of really great AI cinema yet so far is people are reluctant to jump in and they don't know where to start. And the marketing that had been done at the beginning of AI filmmaking was really sort of just shameless and felt scammy. So there's a lot of filmmakers that have been repulsed by this, but the moment they actually start getting into the weeds and using it, they're going to feel this like sense of joy and satisfaction that you learn to lose as you work in the industry. And I think that's really, really magical.
I agree. And what are some of your favorite tools that you use, both of you?
Like niche ones?
Anything.
I mean, right now my go-to is basically design the general aesthetic in Midjourney, use Nano Banana Pro to get coverage and get angles, then move into whatever is the best video model for consistency, which right now is probably Kling 3 and Seedance 2. Those are probably working the best, and that's the flow that I'm using, which has evolved a lot from using 32 tools to do something way less interesting even 3 months ago. We need less tools than ever before to get what we want to get, and I'm excited to see how that continues to evolve.
Grimes, what are some of your favorite tools, music or in filmmaking?
I would go more broadly. I think there's social technology, and I think culture is a medium. And everyone's really hyper focused on art right now, and that's cool. But a lot of people want to make art, and there's a lot of artists, and some of these tools are really great for some artists. But as a mother, I think I feel really assaulted by a lot of technology and really moved by a lot of like niche technology I'm seeing. I think there could be more technology that helps us as humans and helps our culture and is thinking about things more widely. I love Opal that can just block your apps while you're at school or something like that.
Me too.
And I feel like I'm seeing more people approaching technology in this way. I think technology scales everything, good and bad. And right now we're scaling a lot of good and a lot of bad, but we're scaling bad so quickly that it's eating a lot of especially young minds and minds that don't understand to have digital hygiene, don't understand to take care of your dopamine, et cetera. And so the tools I'm really excited about are the tools that are nourishing and building culture, which sometimes are the film tools. But again, I think we're all in the same place at the same time, and with great power comes great responsibility. And I totally agree with the the new camera, makes painters obsolete or whatever. But in the meantime, you actually do have a lot of people that become unemployed, et cetera. And I think we can do both. Some people are doing both, and I would like to encourage more people to do both.
I totally agree. I think it's going to be art hybrid 100%. And with that, I want to thank both of you guys so much for coming here. So great.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, of course.